I, Howard Clarence Peterson, am the seventh child of 9 children born to Charles Peterson and Clara Jane Lewis. Mesa's population was under 700 people when I was born on August 25, 1891. When I was old enough to go to school, I did not like being confined to a classroom, so I refused to concentrate on books and just daydreamed until I was released to go home and enjoy the outdoors. My teacher told my parents it would be a good idea to take me out of school. In those days, many children never finished school because they were needed to work on the farms. My father was very upset and told me I would stay in school until I learned. That did the trick. I stopped being stubborn and started to pay attention and learn. I have never been sorry for the decision I made to stay in school.
I, Afton Ida Clark, was born July the 20th, 1892 in Milton, Utah. I was the oldest child of 9 children, born to Joseph and Mary Clark. Since I was blessed with goodly parents and a noble heritage, I have endeavored to fulfill my obligations to them. When I was just 2 months old, my parents left Utah in a covered wagon to make their home in Arizona. After a month of hazardous journey, we arrived in Lehi, a small town on the Salt River. My father helped build bridges and dams and dug canals to bring water to this desert land. He tried his hand at brickmaking and had a thriving dairy. He also was in Lehi's first postmaster and operated a general grocery store. When jealous dairymen caused the fire that destroyed our business and livelihood. When this venture went up in flames, Father moved his family to Mesa, where he became a partner in the O.S. Stapley hardware business. I remember how happy and proud we were of our beautiful new home on North Mesa Boulevard. When we moved to Mesa in 1904, I was 11 and attended the 6th grade. Howard Peterson was in my class. This was the beginning of our friendship.
When I was 16, my precious mother, Clara Jane Lewis Peterson, died, and I became a lonely teenager. Since I spent quite a bit of time at Afton's home, her mother, Mary Clark, helped fill that motherly void. I took Afton's brothers hunting, helped her sisters in outdoor sports, and was like a big brother to Afton. I enjoyed my time at the Clark home. I was an avid sportsman and was tops in any sport I played. I was a fast runner, excellent left-handed batter, and a good pitcher.
I was blessed at birth with the gift of a powerful, resonant voice. I used this gift for speeches, stories, and dramas for the church, my school, and the community. I graduated from Mesa High School. I was fortunate enough to become valedictorian of my class of 1910. That day, I believe I was about the happiest girl in the world. I had a beautiful dress, gave a speech called The Royal Path of Life, and I was madly in love with my lifelong boyfriend, Howard Peterson.
I graduated with Afton as the salutatorian and gave my address, the man of the hour. I rented a horse and buggy so that Afton Clark and I could go on a ride after graduation.
Howard wanted us to marry, but I said, no, not now. I wanted to go to college and have a means of livelihood before I took that step. My father was on a mission in England, but my blessed mother helped me get through 2 years of teacher's college at Tempe Normal School. I graduated in 1912 with a lifetime teaching certificate.
Since I had no vocation, except as a hard-working farmer, my father sent me to an electrician trade school in Los Angeles, California after high school. Afton and I corresponded that year, but I was unhappy being away from my home, my sports buddies, and my sweetheart Afton. When my school was out for the summer vacation, I came back to Mesa, Arizona, and told my father I would like to go to college. I was hoping that Afton would marry me, but she refused because she had one more year of school. So I enrolled at Tempe Normal School. While there, I played baseball, went to all the sporting events, became a cadet in the military group, and was elected to the school council. Afton encouraged me to serve a mission. In the fall of 1912, I was called to the Eastern States Mission, and Afton started teaching school. I labored without purse or script in Pennsylvania, New York, and Vermont. That means as missionaries, we had to find people who would feed us and put us up to sleep each night. During part of my mission, I served at the Joseph Smith Birthplace Memorial in Sharon, Vermont. Towards the end of my mission, I wrote a letter to Afton letting her know of my love for her. I also told her in the letter, quote, "All I have in this world to start out with is a true heart and a strong pair of arms. I will admit that it isn't much to offer you, but it is the best I have, and I am not ashamed of the best I can afford," end quote. In the letter, I also boldly asked Afton to meet me in Salt Lake City, and we could be married right away. Afton had already started with her new classroom of students, so she didn't take me up on my offer, but I continued to patiently wait. After returning home from my mission, I helped my father on his big ranch in Chandler, Arizona, and got a job as a sandero. I was responsible to regulate and measure irrigation flows for the Roosevelt Conservation District. I enjoyed this job because I was outdoors. World War I raged in Europe, and I realized that I might be called to serve into service. So Afton and I were married at the Clark home by Bishop Dana on June 3, 1917. We took a train to the Salt Lake Temple, where we were sealed forever just 5 days later. I had patiently waited 7 long years, like Jacob in the Old Testament, to have Afton as my eternal wife, and now she would become a war bride. I joined the Army Transportation Corps rather than be drafted. I was gone the next 2 years and was stationed in Waterton, New York. It was the coldest place I had ever lived. I missed my Afton and warm Arizona.
When Howard was in the Army, I continued to teach school in Mesa for only that year. Mesa schools didn't allow married women to teach, so I went to Chandler and taught. When Howard came home from the Army in February of 1919, I stopped teaching and we set up housekeeping in an apartment over on the second floor of my dad's furniture store. 9 months later, a 10.5-pound baby was born. He was stillborn, so we buried his little white casket in the Mesa Cemetery. This left us as broken-hearted parents, but we knew we would have the chance to raise him if we were worthy. Our lives were busy, and we were blessed with 5 more wonderful children: Howard Dean, Marion George, Charles Reed, Afton Winona, and Glenn Clark.
In the early part of 1920, I was a deputy sheriff in Phoenix, Arizona. 3 years later, I became Mesa's first chief of police. I worked hard, but had every Thursday off. As often as we could, I would take our family to go visit my brother, Erin, and his family at Canyon Lake. We would go fishing and boating and had a grand time together in the outdoors. I also enjoyed hunting with my children and friends whenever I could. Life was wonderful.
We budgeted and saved and worked hard so we could build our own home in the same street as my parents. We had only lived in the house 1 year and a month when tragedy struck our family. One evening, Howard answered a police call just after he had a bath. He jumped on his motorcycle and rode out to the Superstition Mountain to help coax a young man to come out of hiding. The next morning, Howard had flu pneumonia. Even though Howard had been a very healthy 40-year-old, he passed away 6 days later at midnight on September the 28th, 1931. The day of Howard's funeral, the entire town closed down from noon to 5 so they could attend the funeral. Howard was a man of the highest moral character and was well known in the community. He had a happy, pleasant disposition. With a smile upon his face, a kind word, and a ready hand, he greeted all who knew him. I couldn't have gone through the sorrow had it not been for my beloved parents by my side. We left our new home and moved in with my parents. Howard and I had been married for 14 years. I was a widow at 39 years. Dean was 10, Marion 7, Reed 5, Winona 3, and Glenn 18 months. I regretted not marrying Howard sooner, but I'm thankful that I had the foresight to become a teacher. Now I had a way to provide for my 5 little ones. I went back to college to add a few more credits and was promised a teaching job in Mesa School in the fall of 1932. When I returned to teaching, I was assigned to teach auditorium at Franklin Middle School. The students were from 6th through 8th grades, participated in auditorium by reciting poetry, singing, playing instruments, putting on plays, skits, or dancing. I gave a writing assignment. I was strong on literature and poetry that built character. The last 15 minutes of class, I would tell one of the classic stories like Call of the Wild or Hans Brinker and the Silver Skates. The students were anxious to return to auditorium to see what happened next. I guess I was one of the few teachers in history who ever put out grades each marking period for 900 youngsters. After 5 years, and when all my children were in school, we moved back into our home, and this meant another adjustment. Everyone must do their share or it wouldn't work. I'm pleased with my 5 fatherless children because everyone helped with the food, washing, ironing, mowing, painting, and whatever else was needed. These years were difficult because not only did I teach school, raise 5 children alone, I also went to school to get my bachelor's degree in teaching. I graduated when I was 45 in cap and gown at Tempe College, now ASU, 25 years from the time of my first graduation. However, this was more thrilling, for I had 5 youngsters to watch their mother get a diploma. Every summer I had to get some kind of work to keep food on the table. My favorite was helping with the parks and playground for the city of Mesa. I would help with the activities, and the children seemed to enjoy my storytelling. I decided to do something to keep my boys close to me, so I started the Tommy Tucker Club for Marion and his friends. They came to my home every Sunday evening after church to practice. Soon they were called to sing at conferences, church, socials, and other occasions. I would always serve some type of a refreshment, so they really sang for their supper. I had 3 sons serve our country, Dean in the Coast Guard, Marion in the Navy, and Reed in the Air Force. I thank my Heavenly Father that they all returned safely home, but it grieved me greatly to have never sent a single son on a mission. But I know my sons have helped others learn about the gospel through the years. I sold my home on Country Club in 1955 because it was on a busy commercial street. I wanted a place where my lovely grandchildren could come and visit in peace. I found a new home on 2nd Avenue, bought my first new car, a 1955 Chevy, and attended the Mesa Ninth Ward. I loved teaching the literature classes in Relief Society. I taught school for 35 years and was forced to retire at age 65, but I continued to substitute. In 1958, I took a trip of a lifetime to Europe with Harold and Mary Dean and Marion and Bonnie. The highlight of the trip was the dedication of the London, England Temple. Marion and Bonnie started a private school in their home and named it the Afton Peterson Basic School. On Friday, I would tell my classic stories to the students.
As I had a heavenly view of Afton raising our 5 children, I must say she did a tremendous job of being a wonderful mother who loved the Lord and taught her children the gospel of Jesus Christ. She also gave countless hours to inspire every student in her class to be their best. She magnified her church callings and was a radiant example to all who knew her. I am so grateful Afton and I were sealed in the Salt Lake Temple, for we will be together forever with our precious family.
My life has been full and glorious. Oh, yes, there were storms. Don't ever wish it otherwise. Just pray for the strength to endure, for God has not promised us skies always blue, but He has promised to help us if we but ask.